Good morning, the students of class 8. Welcome all of you in the social science e-learning class. Today we are going to discuss the history chapter 3 and the name of the chapter ruling the countryside. And today's subunit is the Indigo Rebellion. Yes, the last subunit of your chapter. That how Indigo Rebellion organized. So you have seen previous classes that how the Rayati system was very much oppressive towards the peasants. Now they emerged and they consolidate themselves and started a rebellion. So in March 1859, many peasants refused to cultivate indigo and rebellion started. In the many villages in Bengal, the indigo peasants, they refused to cultivate indigo and rebellion started. And mainly those districts in Faridpur, Barasat and Nadia. So those districts are mainly where the peasants refuse to cultivate indigo. So now what are the causes of, what are the course of rebellion? How the rebellion progressed? That number one, indigo factories were attacked by the men and women with weapons. At that time, what happened when the limit of operation crossed, when all the men and women, they are mainly belong to the peasants and riots family, they attacked those indigo plantations and the indigo factories with the weapons like sword, like spear, like and bow and arrow. And the women, they also joined with the men with the kitchen equipments and as well as the pots and pans. Number two, those who worked for the planters were socially boycotted, and gamustas, the agents of the planters, who actually give the advances and collect the and also they collect the crops after the cultivation. So those gamustas were under attack and they are badly beaten up by those riots. Number three, riots swear they would swear that they would not take advances from the planters and nor be bullied by the planters' lathiyas. They decided that we never cultivate indigo, whether we would be beaten up or bullied up by the planters' lathiyas. They swear actually, and they're taking oath. Now, why the incident and why the rebellion happened in 1859? This is a question, that why this rebellion not happened before. After the 2 years of the Great Mutiny or Sepoy Mutiny, the Indigo Rebellion happened in 1859. And the reasons are that they had felt that they had the support of zamindars and village headmen. All the planters, all the peasants and or riots, they thought at the time their village headmen and zamindars, they would support them against the fight in the fight against the planters. Number two, in many villages, village headmen mobilized the riots against the lathiyas. Any villages, the village headmen mobilized the riots against the lathiyas or the planters guards who guard those plantations. Okay, so what are the other reasons? That number three, in other places, zamindars urging the planters because they were unhappy with the increasing power of the indigo planters and did not want to lease their land forcefully. At that time, in the society, the rural society, you have already know that from permanent settlement, the zamindars got enormous power, and before that also. So in village administration, in village level, the zamindar got a lot of power. But due to the indigo planters, sometimes they also purchased some zamindari and they started planting the indigo on their fields. So these things actually very insulting to the zamindars actually, and so they provoked the peasants that fight against the planters, and they did not want to lease their land forcefully. And they also sometimes those planters forcefully wanted to take lease their lands, zamindars' land, in a long lease. So suppose 99 years lease of lease. So those zamindars, they don't want to give lease to them, and instead of because they cultivate indigo instead of the food crops. So this is the main anger of the zamindar. So that's why zamindar also held the peasants as riots against the planters. Now number 4, indigo peasants imagined that British government would support them support them in their movement. When after the visit of Lieutenant Governor in winter, so they thought that British government would support them, but British government actually wanted to stop the rebellion. They actually wanted to stop the rebellion because 2 years ago in 1857 a great rebellion, Sepoy Mutiny, occurred, and within 2 years this kind of rebellion emerged in the Bengal. So so they saw it as a great danger for their empire. So that's why in Barasat magistrate Ashley Eden issued notice that riots would not be compelled to accept any contract by the indigo planters. They would not be forced to accept any contract by the indigo planters. This is the notice issued by the Ashley Eden, the magistrate of Barasat. But actually Eden tried to placate them. They try to placate them, and they did not support the planters. But planters, they did not support the riots. Actually, at that time when they go for any into the court, when the riots go into the court in any disputes against the planters due to their land and property, all the time the planters own the court case, because all the judges, they were also the Europeans, and they always giving judgment for the planters, those indigo planters, those foreigners or Europeans, and that's why all the time the riots suffered. So in this way they never want to support the riots, but the riots, when they just issued this type of notice to placate the rebellion, they thought the government would support us. So that's why, and finally, when this news reached to Queen Victoria in England, so Queen Victoria had declared that indigo need not to be shown, because at that time in England, the artificial synthetic dye also prepared due to industrial revolution. So Queen Victoria also announced that no need to show indigo. Now, worried about the rebellion, what happened after? Okay, so all the intellectuals of Calcutta toured the indigo districts and wrote the brutality of the planters and the pathetic condition of the riots. In a lot of newspapers such as Hindu Patriot, edited by Harishchandra Mukherjee, as well as some novelists like Dinabandhu Mitra wrote the Nil Darpan on the plight of indigo riots. So in this way they depicted the actual situation and brutality of the planters and the condition of the riots in their novels, in their newspapers and books. So in this way they showcasing the problem all over the people of India. And finally, afraid of the reaction from the peasants, the British government forced to form a commission that is called Indigo Commission. So what happened after? That the government brought military to protect the planters from assaults and set up Indigo Commission to inquire the indigo plantations or entire matter of the indigo plantations. That the commission, now what are the reports of the commission? What was written on the report of the Indigo Commission? The number 1, the commission held the planters guilty and criticized them coarsely. So the commission also found that the planters are guilty and they are very oppressive towards the peasant in this indigo in this royalty system. Number 2, it declared indigo cultivation was not profitable for ryots, and they inquired about that matter, and finally they had found that indigo was not profitable. Indigo cultivation was not profitable for the peasants, comparable to other food crops as rice, wheat, and other cash crops also. Number 3, the ryots were instructed to fulfill their existing contracts, but they could refuse to produce indigo in future. The ryots were instructed to fulfill their existing contracts. They already signed some contracts, so they instructed to fulfill that, but they could deny in future to sign any contract with the planters. So in this way, the indigo plantations totally eradicated from Bengal, but it was not totally removed from India. It is totally abolished from India. The indigo planters, those are cultivated indigo in Bengal, now they are turned towards Bihar. Now they just moved their plantations to Bihar and started giving contracts to the peasants of Bihar again, and the same thing started there. So finally, when Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, he arrived in India, the peasants persuaded Mahatma Gandhi to visit the Bihar, and the peasants of Champaran district from Bihar persuaded Mahatma Gandhi to visit the indigo districts of Champaran and solve their problem and solve the oppression and rescue themselves from the oppression of the indigo planters. And finally, with the Champaran movement, Mahatma Gandhi sent 2 representatives. With the help of those 2 representatives, finally the indigo plantations, indigo cultivations stopped in Bihar. But and as well as in 19th century, when synthetic dye was discovered, the indigo cultivation was irrelevant. So no need to cultivate indigo now in the in the agricultural fields, because already synthetic dye was produced in the laboratory in England. So in this way, the indigo cultivation was stopped in India. So that's all from today's subunit, the Indigo Rebellion and after. Hope you have understood this subunit. Next class will come with the question answer of this chapter. So till then, don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. Thank you for watching.